These are our children, Eddie, Laura, and Judy.
Hi.
Hi.
These videos are not for children. If you are a children, then piss off.
Hey there, I'm Infuso. And you know what's really bugged me my whole life? When characters in TV shows just randomly go missing. I mean, I get that the actors and actresses playing them might get other work, they might not be available to make it to the set. But like, you guys have writers, right? Then write them out. Sure, fair enough if you can't get the actors to return to the show. But you can very easily have a character say a line about so-and-so and just move on from it. It's such a simple fix that I can't understand for the life of me why so many times it's not done. Characters just disappear and they're disregarded. I don't get it. It makes a lot more sense, to me at least, than just moving on and dismissing the character entirely. This is a lot more common than you may think, too. And this is also something that happens a lot more often than you may realize. You ever see the show Happy Days? Do you remember Richie's brother Chuck Cunningham? Because the show certainly didn't. As a matter of fact, not only is Chuck not mentioned following his random absence, he's completely forgotten with the characters mentioning that there are only 2 Cunningham children. Or how about one of my all-time favorite shows, Angel? Angel used to work with, and also sometimes against, a detective by the name of Kate Lockley. She was one of the series' leads, and at the time of her absence, she was just coming off an attempted suicide and her father's death at the hands of vampires. And that's just it. That's her last scene right there. The show moved on without her. No dialogue explaining her future absences, no write-off, just goodbye. And not even that, actually. Now that I think of it, not even a goodbye. Or how about on Boy Meets World, when they got rid of Topanga's sisters, and Minkus, and Mr. Turner, and God knows how many other characters, because I didn't really watch the show Boy Meets World, but that's just what I remember off the top of my head. All gone with little to no explanation. This seems to happen a lot on sitcoms, especially on family sitcoms for one reason or another. But I think the first time I ever recall realizing this, as a kid, was in the show Family Matters. The show was initially about the Winslows, until some fucking geek was allowed to show up on set and completely steal the spotlight and the focus of the show. Not kidding. As you'll see in another video that should be out sometime next month, the show was basically pitched as being Black Full House, until Jaleel White was cast. And then it was just whole different thing. The introduction and surprising reaction audiences had to Steve Urkel led to him overshadowing the main cast. While the show was initially intended to focus on the Winslow house and their day-to-day lives, and the familial issues that may arise, and how they'd work their way through it, the show very quickly turned into the Steve Urkel show. And everything outside of Urkel was secondary.
This is Gene. This was supposed to be about me and my family.
I know, but after that first death spot with Steve Urkel, America fell in love with him, man. We had to make him a regular, and hey, listen, he's the star of the show now.
How many times are we gonna use this transformation machine? This was supposed to be a blue-collar Cosby show. Now you're turning it into goddamn Quantum Leap. There's no family on a show called Family Matters. How the does that work?
The family dynamic took a backseat to suspenders and a mousy voice. And the children actors on the show's screen time was greatly reduced. But I think the character of Judy Winslow might have had it the worst. You see, originally Judy was very much in her element. She was the much-needed youngest child of the family, who audiences would presumably, aww, over. She had a strong bond with her 2 older siblings, being close to Laura, but enjoying Eddie's laid-back, easygoing nature. But when Urkel arrived on the scene, the one series lead suddenly became a background actor. She spoke significantly less, and whenever she did speak, she really didn't have anything of note to say. When a black nerd comes into your show and takes your job, that's hard times. She stopped contributing to the episode's plots, and as opposed to being a character who would further along the story, she was just kind of there out of necessity because the show had already established the household. She was there for the first 4 seasons of the show, and each season, it seemed like she had less and less to do. She was only written into scripts because she was already written into the show. So with heavy focus being put on other characters, namely Urkel, it should come as little to no surprise to anyone that Jamie Foxworth was abruptly let go from the show before they started working on their 5th season. I'm sure a lot of you watching probably are already aware of this, as it's become a running joke, that Judy walked upstairs and then never came back down. Her last scene in the show was literally just her walking up the stairs, and that's the last we ever seen of her. I don't know, maybe there was a milk carton sitting around somewhere where we could see her picture on the back of one, but other than that was the last time you ever seen her. She was never written off the show, she just simply disappeared.
And like that, he's gone.
The show cited budget cuts and the lack of anything creative for her to do, which are understandable points. Others who worked on the show alleged that Judy's early exit has more to do with her parents, because apparently they either felt that she wasn't being properly compensated financially, or that she wasn't being used to her full potential on the show.
Sometimes a parent, can be a stage parent, can be your greatest advocate, or become your greatest enemy.
And that was it for her. She was never seen again. And the show just went on. They didn't even afford an explanation for her absence and passing. You could have very easily had Eddie ask where she is. Laura's like, oh, well, she's doing this. Or something, anything. No! She's just gone. And everyone who was around her just acted like she never existed. The poor kid was Chuck Cunningham'd. I think the biggest smack in the face had to come later on, though, when the show decided, hey, you know what? Maybe we do need to give the Winslows more kids. And instead of bringing Judy back, they introduced the world to a young Orlando Brown in the role of 3J. And by the way, he did nothing positive for that show. I can tell you that now. Okay, so we got rid of the kid we did have, because we don't have the budget for leads, and we no longer have any use for children on the show, but hey, let's get a new kid and have him be one of the new leads. Oh yeah, that makes sense! What a lot of people might not know is that the last season of Family Matters was never intended on being the last season of Family Matters. They originally planned to do one more season, and in that final season, they would have shown Steve and Laura's much anticipated wedding. And they intended on bringing Judy back, along with her missing Aunt Rachel. The plan was to reveal that Judy was now living with her aunt in Detroit, which made sense to a degree considering Aunt Rachel also left the series as a lead in Season 4, but she began showing back up here and there in Season 6 and Season 9. So you'd think that she'd bring Judy along with her to see her family, or, maybe at least give a mention or an update as to how she's doing. But no, she didn't. Just forget about Judy, never happened. It's also weird because she had a son, Richie, who continued living at her sister's house after she departed. So what happened? Did y'all just swap kids? Because I'm not sure that's entirely legal. And if it is, you can correct me, but it's still highly questionable at best. God, it makes so little sense, but I can't even fault this. I can't even sit here and pick this apart, because in the context of Family Matters as a show, this probably makes the most sense out of everything that doesn't make sense on Family Matters. How do you have a show that starts off about a black family, just normal, just a normal black family, and then all of a sudden this fucking nerd who looks like he gave himself a wedgie comes into the show, he becomes the focal point, and then all of a sudden there's puppets that come to life? The kid could turn himself into Bruce Lee for some reason. He's got a cousin Myrtle who's also played by the same actor. I'm not gonna get into it. That's for a different video. I'm not gonna do it here. But just know, I have some things to say, and that is where I'm gonna leave that. Believe it or not, she wasn't even the first Judy Winslow. As in the pilot episode of the series, the character was played by a different child actress. Oh, and just so everyone knows, I've seen this written in just about everywhere when researching this. Every article mentioning her disappearance, every YouTube video talking about her absence, the official Family Matters Wikia, and I've even witnessed cast members talking about this in interviews, stating that her final scene in the series was her walking upstairs, never to return again.
Her final episode, she went upstairs for punishment from her mother and never came back downstairs.
I just know that the joke is She went upstairs, and then what is it? The next episode or next season?
Yeah, she was gone.
Judy went upstairs on punishment and never came back.
Season 4, episode 19, Mama's Wedding. She goes upstairs, never to be seen again.
That's bullshit. I actually watched the entire last season that she was in as I was doing this video. There is no scene like that whatsoever. And her last scene in the show is actually her attending her grandmother's wedding as one of the bridesmaids. I mean, granted, she does walk back inside the house, but so do the vast majority of the main characters. And that's the real end, that's it. I mean, granted, everyone else's recollection, that story is better, but this story is true, so there is that. Although technically it's not her last appearance in the show because she continues to appear in the opening credits for the rest of the season, so there's that. So yeah, you heard it here first. This is a long-perpetuated urban myth. Consider it debunked. It is not true. Go to Hulu if you don't believe me. Since leaving the show, Jamie has struggled financially and battled anxiety. Two things I myself know a little bit about. For 2 years of her career, she worked in the adult industry under the name Crave, which I'm only bringing this up so I could play this clip directly after.
She grew up to be hot. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything incestuous, but I look at her sometimes and I'm like, I crave.
But for all intents and purposes, she seems like she's doing pretty well for herself now. And she genuinely seems happy, which is nice to see. If you'd like to support her, she currently has a YouTube account of her own. Here's the name, I'll post the link in the description below. So why don't you go ahead and swing by and let her know who sent you.
I'm the Clown Prince of Crime, and that was the Prince of Personality, the Infuso. Or so he says. So if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole and you too want to become a V-tard, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the man on Twitter, because it's not stalking if it's on the internet after all. Join the fun by joining the Discord. If for some strange reason you want to show support, and I don't know why you would, and if you have $1 to spare, head over to the SIJW's Patreon, where you can request videos, get exclusive content, and early access to scheduled videos. Or head to his PayPal, where you can buy the shirts. Oh, aren't those lovely? And just remember, if you're not tuning in, you're missing out. Yeah.